My wife's affair partner attacked me when I caught them in action. The police arrived, and they tried to blame me.
The day started like any other, with the usual whirlwind of early morning chaos. I left for work with a travel mug of coffee in one hand and my briefcase in the other. My mind was buzzing with the never-ending list of tasks waiting for me at the office. It was a typical Monday, demanding my attention from the moment I walked through the doors. The morning flew by in a blur of emails and meetings. Just before lunch, I realized I'd left a crucial document at home, one that I needed for an important meeting that afternoon. I cursed under my breath, frustrated at my carelessness. Without it, the presentation I'd been working on for weeks would fall apart. As I drove home, my mind wandered to Isabella, my wife of 22 years. Our marriage had been tested by time and circumstance. Recently, our conversations had been reduced to monosyllabic exchanges, and our interactions had become cold and mechanical. I had attributed it to the stresses of work and daily life. I told myself that we were just in a rut and would find our way back to each other eventually. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed Isabella's car was still there. A flicker of unease settled in my stomach as I climbed the steps to the front door. The house was quiet, too quiet. An unsettling silence hung in the air, broken only by the distant hum of traffic outside. I shook off the feeling, telling myself it was just the stress of the day getting to me. I opened the door and stepped inside, my footsteps echoing in the stillness. As I moved through the hallway, a strange sound caught my attention, a rhythmic creaking and soft moans coming from the bedroom upstairs. My heart began to pound in my chest. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but as I climbed the stairs, the noises grew clearer, unmistakable. A chill ran down my spine. I reached the top of the stairs, where the bedroom door was slightly ajar. Through the narrow gap, I saw Isabella, my wife, riding a Johnson like a pro. The man is tall and muscular. They were wrapped in each other's arms, oblivious to my presence. The sight hit me like a physical blow, my heart sinking with a mixture of disbelief and rage. "Babe, I want to ride your big Johnson all day," Isabella moaned, her voice dripping with lust I hadn't heard in years. My world shattered in that instant. A mix of fury and betrayal surged through me, fueling my actions. I burst into the room, adrenaline coursing through my veins, and shouted, "What the fuck is going on here?" Isabella's head whipped around, eyes wide with shock. The man scrambled off the bed, startled but quickly regaining his composure. He was taller and broader than I had anticipated, his face shifting from surprise to aggression. "Get the hell out of here," he barked, his voice low and menacing. Rage consumed me. I lunged at him, fists swinging wildly. We crashed to the floor in a chaotic tangle of limbs and fury. Isabella screamed, her voice an echo in the background of my rage. We rolled across the floor, grappling for dominance. The man managed to break free, reaching for something on the nightstand. My blood ran cold when I saw the glint of steel. He grabbed a knife, brandishing it with a threatening gleam in his eyes. "Get the fuck out, or you'll regret it," he hissed, his gaze locked on mine. Before I could react, he lunged, the blade slicing through the air. I twisted instinctively, but the knife grazed my arm, pain exploding along the cut. I stumbled back, clutching my bleeding wound, my mind reeling from the chaos. Just then, the distant sound of sirens grew louder, their wails cutting through the tension like a lifeline. Within moments, police officers burst into the room. I don't know how, weapons drawn and voices commanding. "Drop the knife," one of the officers ordered, his gun trained on the intruder. The man hesitated for a moment before dropping the knife with a clatter, raising his hands in surrender. The officers moved in quickly, handcuffing him and escorting him out of the room. I stood there, my heart pounding in my chest, trying to process the chaos that had just unfolded. My arm throbbed with pain, but the physical wound was nothing compared to the devastation I felt inside. Isabella, her eyes cold and calculating, turned to the officers, her voice steady and accusing. "He attacked us," she said, pointing at me. "He just went crazy." I stared at her, incredulous. "That's not true," I protested, my voice raw with emotion. But the officers seemed to listen more intently to her, doubt clouding their expressions. The reality of the situation sank in. The woman I had loved and trusted had not only betrayed me but had also turned against me in my most vulnerable moment. The realization cut deeper than any knife, leaving me standing in a shattered life that had once been mine. The police station was a cacophony of activity, with officers moving briskly through the corridors and phones ringing incessantly. I sat at a desk under harsh fluorescent lights, a bandage hastily wrapped around my arm, feeling as if I were trapped in a nightmare. My mind buzzed with disbelief and betrayal. The officers seemed uninterested in my side of the story, instead taking Isabella's account as truth. She had presented herself as the victim so convincingly, with tears in her eyes and a quiver in her voice. "He's always been jealous and controlling," she had said, her voice trembling as she painted a picture of our marriage. I was terrified. He just snapped. Her words hung in the air, coloring their perception of me as a volatile and unstable husband. Despite the physical evidence of my injury, the narrative she spun was compelling enough for the officers to question my character. Every protest I made felt like it was falling on deaf ears, each plea seeming more desperate than the last. After what felt like an eternity, I was released on bail. As I stepped out of the station into the cool night air, the weight of the situation settled heavily on my shoulders. My thoughts were a tangled mess of anger and confusion. How could Isabella, the woman I had shared my life with, do this to me? As I drove home, my grip on the steering wheel was tight, my mind racing with thoughts of revenge and retribution. I knew I needed to clear my name and show the world the truth. When I arrived home, the house was dark, the only sound the creak of the floorboards as I walked inside. Isabella was sitting on the couch, the glow of the television flickering in the background. The room was filled with an oppressive tension, like a storm about to break. "Why?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, raw with emotion. "Why would you do this to us?" She didn't look up at first, her gaze fixed on the floor. "It just happened," she said, her tone dismissive and cold. "We haven't been happy for a long time." Her words hit me like a physical blow, and I struggled to maintain my composure. "That doesn't justify what you did," I replied, anger simmering beneath my skin. "And lying to the cops? What were you thinking?" Finally, she looked up, her eyes meeting mine with a steely glare. "I did what I want," she said, her voice hard. "You were always so focused on work, on everything else. I needed someone who paid attention to me." Her words were a bitter pill to swallow, each one a barb sinking deeper into my chest. I realized then that the woman I had loved, the woman I thought I knew, was a stranger to me now. The days that followed were a blur, each one blending into the next as I grappled with the fallout of my shattered marriage. I was haunted by the betrayal, the lies, and the image of Isabella with another man. But beneath the confusion and heartache, a plan began to form, a way to get back at Isabella and the man who had tried to destroy my life. My first step was to gather evidence. I started with Isabella's phone and computer, combing through her messages and emails. I uncovered a trove of conversations and photos, each one a painful reminder of her deceit. It was a painstaking process, each new discovery twisting the knife in my back a little deeper, but it fueled my resolve. Late at night, I would sit at the kitchen table, poring over the evidence I had collected. Each piece of information felt like a brick in the wall I was building, a fortress of truth to protect myself against her lies. It was exhausting work, but it was necessary. Once I had enough proof, I contacted a lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Linda who had a reputation for being tough as nails. I explained my situation and presented the evidence, laying it all out for her to see. She listened intently, her expression unreadable as she flipped through the files. "You've got a solid case," she finally said, looking up at me with a nod of approval. "We'll file for divorce, citing infidelity and domestic deception. And we'll press charges against the man for assault. With this evidence, we can turn the tables." Her words were a balm to my wounded pride, a reminder that I wasn't powerless. With her help, I could fight back, expose the truth, and clear my name. The path ahead was daunting, but it was a path I was determined to walk. I knew that the journey wouldn't be easy, that there would be battles to fight and obstacles to overcome. But for the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of purpose, a flicker of hope amidst the darkness. I was ready to reclaim my life, to rebuild it from the ashes, stronger and wiser than before. The day of the court hearing dawned cold and gray, a reflection of the turmoil that had engulfed my life. I entered the courtroom with a mixture of anxiety and determination, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. This day was the culmination of weeks of preparation, a chance to expose the truth and reclaim my life from the shadows of betrayal. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay ahead. Isabella sat across the room, her demeanor icy and confident. She was dressed in a sharp black suit, her hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her gaze was steady, her lips set in a thin line. But I knew that beneath her composed exterior, cracks were beginning to show. Today, she would be forced to confront the web of lies she had spun, and I was ready to ensure that justice prevailed. My lawyer, Linda, stood beside me, her presence a calming force. She had been relentless in her pursuit of the truth, and I knew that with her by my side, we had the upper hand. As the proceedings began, she presented the evidence meticulously, each piece of information a blow to Isabella's carefully constructed facade. Linda started with the messages and emails, reading aloud the words that had been etched into my mind during those long, lonely nights of discovery. The courtroom was silent as she detailed the affair, the betrayal stark and undeniable. Each revelation chipped away at Isabella's confident exterior, her expression growing more strained with every damning piece of evidence. The judge, a stern man with a keen eye for detail, reviewed the material carefully. I watched as he flipped through the documents, his expression growing increasingly severe. Isabella's composure began to crack, her mask slipping as the truth was laid bare for all to see. Her lover, the man who had attacked me, shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his bravado fading in the harsh light of the evidence. Finally, Linda presented the assault charge, highlighting the injuries I had sustained and the threat that had been made against me. The man was visibly nervous, beads of sweat forming on his brow as the weight of his actions settled heavily upon him. The judge listened intently, his gaze fixed on the man who had dared to intrude into my life with violence and deceit. After what felt like an eternity, the judge delivered his verdict. Isabella's lover was charged with assault, the evidence too compelling to ignore. As for Isabella, her claims were systematically dismantled, leaving her with nothing but the ruins of her deceit. The divorce was finalized quickly, with the court ruling in my favor. Isabella was left with nothing, her lies and betrayal costing her everything she had once held dear. As I left the courtroom, a sense of vindication washed over me. I had been wronged, but I had emerged stronger, determined to rebuild my life. The weight of Isabella's betrayal was still there, a dull ache that would take time to heal, but the knowledge that justice had been served brought a measure of peace. Outside, the sky had cleared, the sun breaking through the clouds in a brilliant display of light. I paused for a moment, taking in the warmth on my face. The future stretched out before me, filled with possibilities I had never imagined. I realized that while revenge had been sweet, it was the truth that had ultimately set me free. I was free from the lies and deceit that had ensnared me, free to begin anew. As I walked away from the courthouse, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead would not be easy, but I was ready to face it with courage and resilience. My journey was far from over, but I was determined to move forward, leaving the shadows of the past behind. With each step, I felt lighter, the burden of betrayal lifting as I embraced the promise of a new beginning. The days following the court hearing were a whirlwind of emotions, like a storm finally calming after weeks of turbulence. The weight of betrayal still lingered, heavy on my shoulders, but I finally felt a sense of freedom. Justice had been served, and now it was time to focus on rebuilding my life and finding happiness once again. Moving into a new apartment was the first step. It was a modest but cozy place, nestled in a quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets and friendly neighbors. I had chosen it for the sense of peace it promised, refuge where I could start afresh. The process of decorating and making it feel like home was therapeutic, allowing me to leave behind the memories of the past. I spent hours painting the walls in warm, inviting colors, carefully selecting furniture that was both comfortable and stylish. As the apartment slowly took shape, so too did my new life. Each addition, a painting, a potted plant, a bookshelf filled with my favorite novels, felt like a step toward healing. I also threw myself into work, determined to regain control and stability in my life. Returning to the office was a welcome distraction, a place where I could lose myself in projects and deadlines. My colleagues were supportive, offering understanding smiles and quiet encouragement. The familiarity of my work routine was comforting, a reminder that some things remained unchanged even as my personal life had been turned upside down. The support from friends and family was overwhelming, a lifeline that kept me grounded during moments of doubt and despair. They rallied around me, offering words of encouragement and helping me see the brighter side of the situation. My parents called daily, their voices a soothing balm against the chaos of the past months. My sister visited often, her presence a constant reminder of the love and support that surrounded me. My best friend, Mike, was a constant presence, always ready with a joke or a distraction whenever I needed it. He had been my rock throughout the ordeal, his unwavering loyalty a beacon of hope. One evening, as we sat on my new balcony overlooking the city, Mike turned to me, his expression serious. "You know, this could be a fresh start," he said, his voice filled with optimism. "You've been given a chance to find something real, something better." I nodded, realizing that he was right. Despite the pain and betrayal, I had been given a chance to reinvent myself, to find a happiness that had eluded me for so long. I was free to explore new possibilities, to chase dreams I had put aside in the pursuit of a life that no longer existed. As the weeks passed, I began to embrace my newfound freedom. I took up old hobbies, rediscovering the joy of painting and hiking, activities that had once brought me immense pleasure. I spent weekends exploring the city, visiting art galleries and attending live music events, immersing myself in the vibrant culture that surrounded me. One evening, I found myself at a charity gala, an event organized by my company to support a local children's hospital. The thought of mingling with strangers and making small talk was daunting, but my friend Mike, ever the social butterfly, convinced me that it would be a good distraction. The gala was held at an opulent downtown venue, the room adorned with shimmering lights and elegant decor. The air was filled with the clinking of glasses and the hum of conversation, a symphony of life and energy that I had almost forgotten existed. As I entered the room, I was enveloped by the vibrant atmosphere, a far cry from the solitude of my recent days. I wandered through the crowd, exchanging pleasantries with colleagues and acquaintances. It felt good to be part of a social gathering, even if the initial sense of unease lingered. As I made my way around the room, I observed the faces around me, some familiar, some not, and began to appreciate the sense of community that such events fostered. As the evening wore on, I found myself standing by the bar, nursing a drink and watching the interactions around me. The night was alive with laughter and chatter, a tapestry of stories and connections unfolding before my eyes. It was then that I noticed her, a woman across the room, her presence captivating and serene. She stood out in the crowd, her laughter like music that carried above the din. She was talking animatedly with a group of people, her smile radiant and genuine. Her energy was infectious, drawing others in with an effortless charm. Something about her presence captivated me, and I felt an inexplicable urge to introduce myself. Gathering my courage, I made my way through the crowd, my heart pounding in my chest. As I approached, I reminded myself of the fresh start I had been given, the chance to embrace new experiences and connections. "Hi," I said, offering a nervous smile as I reached her. "I'm David." She turned to me, her eyes meeting mine with a warmth that instantly put me at ease. "Hi, David. I'm Selena," she replied, her voice as inviting as her smile. We struck up a conversation, her easygoing nature quickly dispelling any lingering nerves. We talked about everything from our jobs to our favorite books and movies, discovering shared interests and passions along the way. Her love for literature mirrored my own, and we found ourselves deep in discussion about our favorite authors and novels. As the night unfolded, I found myself increasingly drawn to her positivity and kindness. Her presence was a stark contrast to the chaos I had recently endured, a reminder that life could still hold joy and connection despite past struggles. We laughed easily, sharing stories and experiences that made the hours fly by. The gala began to wind down, the room slowly emptying as guests bid their farewells. Selena and I lingered near the bar, reluctant to let the evening end. As we talked, I felt a sense of connection that I hadn't expected, a spark that had been absent from my life for too long. "I'm glad I came tonight," I admitted, my voice genuine. "Meeting you has been the highlight of the evening." Selena smiled, her eyes twinkling with the same warmth I had noticed from across the room. "I'm glad you did too, David. It's been wonderful talking with you." As we exchanged contact information, I realized that this chance encounter had been more than just a fleeting moment. It was a new beginning, a step toward a future filled with possibility and hope. The past still lingered, but it no longer held me captive. Instead, I felt ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that I had the strength to forge a new path. As I left the gala, I carried with me the memory of Selena's laughter and the promise of new connections. Life had dealt me unexpected challenges, but it had also given me the chance to start anew, and I was determined to make the most of it. As summer faded into fall, Selena and I spent more time together, our connection deepening with each shared moment. She became a constant in my life, a source of joy and comfort that I hadn't realized I was missing. Her genuine care and support were like a balm to my wounded heart, helping me heal from the scars of betrayal and rediscover the happiness I once thought lost. Our weekends were filled with adventure and exploration. We wandered through the city's hidden gems, stumbling upon quaint bookstores and cozy cafes that felt like our own little secrets. Selena had a knack for finding the best spots, whether it was a new restaurant tucked away in a quiet neighborhood or a vibrant art gallery showcasing local talent. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and I found myself looking forward to our outings, eager to discover what new experience awaited us. One Saturday, we attended a street festival, the air alive with the sounds of music and laughter. We weaved through the bustling crowds, sampling food from different stalls and admiring the colorful displays of art and crafts. Selena pulled me into a spontaneous dance in the middle of the street, her laughter ringing out as we moved to the rhythm of a nearby band. In those moments, surrounded by the vibrant energy of the festival, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in years. Selena's friends and family quickly became an integral part of my life, welcoming me with open arms. Her parents invited us over for dinner, their warmth and hospitality making me feel like part of the family. Her friends were equally accepting, and we spent many evenings sharing stories and laughter over drinks. It was a sense of belonging I had longed for, a community that embraced me wholeheartedly. One evening, as we strolled through a park bathed in the golden hues of sunset, Selena turned to me, her expression thoughtful. "You've been through a lot, David," she said softly, her hand slipping into mine. "But you've come out stronger. I'm glad you're in my life." Her words resonated deeply, echoing the journey I had taken over the past few months. I squeezed her hand, gratitude welling up inside me. "I'm glad you're in my life too, Selena," I replied, my voice filled with sincerity. "You've helped me see that there's still so much to look forward to." We found a bench overlooking a small lake, the surface shimmering under the fading light. As we sat there, side by side, I reflected on the changes that had brought me to this point. I realized that I had indeed emerged from the storm stronger and more resilient. The betrayal and heartbreak had taught me valuable lessons about myself and the kind of life I wanted to build. Selena had helped me see that love was still possible, that I could trust again despite the shadows of the past. Her unwavering support had shown me the power of vulnerability, the courage it took to open my heart once more. With her, I felt a sense of peace and fulfillment that had been absent for so long. Our relationship blossomed in the months that followed, each day a new chapter in our unfolding story. We planned weekend getaways to the countryside, where we hiked through lush trails and shared picnics under open skies. We spent quiet evenings at home, cooking together and losing ourselves in conversations that stretched into the early hours of the morning. Through it all, Selena's presence was a constant reminder of the beauty that could be found in second chances. She taught me that love was not about perfection, but about finding someone who embraced your flaws and celebrated your journey. With her, I felt a profound sense of gratitude, knowing that our paths had crossed at just the right moment. As we sat on that bench, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I realized that I had found something truly special in Selena, a love that was genuine, enduring, and transformative. It was a new beginning, a chance to write a story filled with hope, trust, and endless possibilities. And for the first time in a long time, I was excited about the future and the adventures that awaited us together.